All right, this very first technique that we're going to do for flowing from trapping to grappling range is going to be the pull and punch. So from this position here, I might be at this, what we would call like a reference point here where our hands are connected. And you see this a lot in like dirty boxing when we're in here like that. So I might just start from that reference point, or I could start with a punch and he just has his hand there to block. Or what we oftentimes do in our martial art classes is start with a back fist, because then the block is always right there. So I'm going to just do a back fist for now. So from here, I'm going to pull and punch. So that's going to be our first technique. You've seen this before in previous videos or in previous lessons. And when I pull and punch, I pull his arm this way, so my hand faces the ceiling, kind of like this, like you'd see in like a karate, taekwondo, kung fu form. And when I do that, it exposes his elbow. And so my first technique for grappling is just going to be to move towards the elbow and apply pressure on his elbow like this. Now, from this position here, besides that pressure, I also have my hand kind of creeping down towards his knuckles. And so while I'm applying this pressure, I'm also holding that hand really tight. And as I start to squirm and move that hand around, from here I can make the wrist lock here. You good, buddy? You have a sensitive wrist there. I can make the wrist lock here against my body, or I can make what I would call a Kimura grip, and I can turn this way for a shoulder lock. Okay, so again, I pull and punch, elbow lock. It could be a strike to the elbow, but I'm just going to apply pressure. And then from here, this hand can bring the wrist to here. Now I have to have some kind of a base or an anchor for that to stop. So if I'm trying to submit someone here, it's not going to work, right? So I bring my whole body there, and then I apply the pressure. Or I can come over the top, grab my own wrist, and then catch here for the shoulder lock. You want to do those on me, Cody?
Absolutely.
Here we go. So you can punch me. Cody couldn't wait to do those on me. Let's go ahead and do it from this angle. One thing I'll point out is when he's doing the shoulder lock, okay, that was good. He has the wrist lock also, so I'm feeling it in both the wrist and the shoulder there. And so when you do that, you can definitely apply multiple submissions at once. So those are the first applications for grappling from the pull and punch range. Because when I have a pull and punch and his arm goes across my body like this, it's very similar to an arm drag that we see in wrestling or jiujitsu. So an arm drag in wrestling or jiujitsu is here. And really the same thing is happening. We're creating this angle, which is another thing with the pull and punch, is I have this angle now on him where he can't hit me and I can attack him. I can also from here change levels and go for his leg, or I can stay up high and I can go for the neck. So from here, I'll do the choke first. So the choke from here is just to come here, in the middle of my arms, the middle of his throat. My hand comes to my shoulder here, or my elbow, and I come behind him and squeeze. So again, here, I pull him. Now this could be a hit. Pow! That wouldn't be fun, would it? Or I can come right for the choke, hand to the shoulder. This one I'm showing you how I'm grabbing, but I never want to leave that out there because he could pull my arm down and create the jackpot armbar, which is coming up. It's coming up in one of these techniques, right? So from here, I can hit him, or I can just come here for the choke. I hide the arm behind me, and I squeeze my elbows together to make the choke. Now that choke is definitely more effective on the ground. I believe there's a lot of the submissions are more effective on the ground because the ground, it stabilizes and immobilizes an opponent. And all these techniques can be done on the ground as well. But now, talking about a technique that will take someone to the ground, is we can also do a basic takedown off that pull and punch. When I have him like this, and I've pulled him and that leg's forward, I can now change my levels, and I'm going to catch his leg, and my head's going to come right here, and I can make a single leg takedown. Now when I make that grip for the single leg takedown, my hand's going to look like this position here. So here, come here just a little bit. So my hand is here, and if you've done jiu-jitsu or wrestling, you would know this probably, but I'm like this, so he can't pull his leg back very easily. If I have my hand this way, he can pull his leg back and I can't stop it. So I use this hand to stop that. Now there's multiple variations of the takedown. We're not actually going to throw Cody today. Well, not yet. We're going to in a little bit. But for this one, I'm not going to throw him. But I want to at least show how we would throw somebody from there. So from here, we're here like this. I come in. Now, I could lift this leg really high and dump him, okay? Or I could he has balance on that foot over there, but he doesn't have balance on this foot because it's up in the air. So I could also pull back and take him that way, or I could bring him towards me and then collapse both legs at once to take him down. So that's how we can hit a single leg, a double leg takedown, or even a standing submission hold like the choke off of that pull and punch. Okay, now what we're gonna see is continuing with the pull and the punch, and we're moving into the jackpot armbar. As my opponent, Cody here, he starts to bend his arm to resist this, I'm gonna turn underneath. And now from when I'm turning underneath, I have a shoulder lock or a shoulder throw. To do the lock, I apply pressure up, and it's gonna submit him. Or to do the throw, I can kick his leg out from underneath him and drop him right to the ground. Here, I'm making the punch, I'm stepping in for the jackpot armbar, the elbow lock. He bends his arm, I turn and rotate. I can submit him right here, or I can kick through his leg and take him all the way to the ground. This next technique, we're going to start with a trap instead of a pull. So we're here like this. I'm going to trap and punch. Now, one thing I want to remind you guys of is that the trap and the hit are not separate. They're simultaneous. So it disrupts my opponent. So from here, boom, just like that, a simultaneous trap and punch. And as I'm moving in, it's a very small movements, but I'm making sure to not lean my body, which is going to put me in a position where I'm not able to do a submission because I have to have a strong core to do a submission, so I have to be upright. So I'm not leaning into this at all, and I'm not going trap and then try to punch, but I'm moving at him, boom, trap and punch simultaneously. Now, whether I hit him or not, I have this arm trapped. So he blocked it, but once again, if I hit him, awesome. If he blocked it, awesome, it doesn't matter. I can still move into my trapping range. Now the hand that's trapping here is going to make an underhook. And from the underhook, I'm going to come around and I'm going to catch the arm here. We call this the arm crunch arm bar, where my elbow is on top of his elbow. This hand here is on my shoulder or close to it. I put my hand on top of my elbow, which is on top of his elbow. There's a lot of elbows going on. There's a space right here in between us, and I apply the pressure there to catch his elbow. Here, and I have an elbow lock. Now, oftentimes their arm doesn't go straight like that. Oftentimes it bends, and when it bends, it's the shoulder lock. The shoulder lock is actually easier to do, probably, in my opinion. So here, his arm is bent this time, and I apply a shoulder lock. Now, Cody doesn't feel like getting taken all the way to the ground, probably. But to take, well, maybe one time?
Sure.
One time. So to take someone to the ground from here, you're going to turn them into a circle and put them right on their stomach, okay? And so how I do that is I lift up, push down, and lift up. So this hand is pushing down, this elbow is lifting up, and I'm bringing him in a circle, and I'm putting him right on his stomach. Here, I'm going to come like this. If his arm's bent, I'm going to turn him this way, take him all the way down. Okay, come on, back up, buddy. You don't have to fall down. I'll just kind of... He's not going to fall down every time. I'm just going to explain it. So his arm's bent. I take my rear leg, I bring it behind him, and I turn to get that momentum. Now, speaking of that momentum, whether his arm is straight or bent, from this position, I can also drive his head down. Okay, we, of course, have a knee right there, but I could drive his head down, push his head down, and lift his arm up. Is it okay if I throw you real quick?
Do it.
So I can throw him from there as well. If it's straight, I'm applying pressure on a straight arm, and his arm slips off. It takes us right back to our last series that we did, where my thumbs are on his knuckles, and I'm coming here, and I'm making the submission holds like this. So it does not change, it doesn't change the techniques at all, it just takes us to the previous techniques. So in martial arts, you have to have a lot of options all the time. So when you miss a technique, you can move right on to the next technique. And this one I'm going to apply pressure up with his arm. I'm going to turn him this way, and I'm going to apply the wrist lock. Oftentimes people tell me that the self-defense style techniques like this don't really work. But I've been able to make them work in live grappling over and over and over again. And the reason why I've been able to make them work is because making them work has to do with off-balancing. So we're off-balancing our opponent first. And then the second thing that we're doing is we're linking many moves together. So when they escape one move, we're on to the next move. If my opponent was to just grab me, and I was to just stand here and just do this and apply the move, it's very hard for it to work at that point. It's not impossible. If he's an untrained person, he's never seen this stuff before, maybe it's going to work. But we also have the possibility of, while I'm messing with his arm, he's punching me over this. I'm getting clocked by that, right? So this makes it really hard. But in a situation where, right now he's off balance. So he's totally off balance. I'm coming here. And then I've got the move there. So we have the off balancing, we have the moves linking together, and that's how we make these moves really practical. Now, just like on the pull and punch, we can also go to the other side. So from the other side, like this, if he blocks my hand, so again, I'm going to trap and punch, but I'm getting a block. And the energy that I'm getting off this block is very centered. He's not pushing. If he was pushing, it's a different move, okay? But he's not pushing, he's just kind of holding the center right there. So when he's doing that, I'm going to come through and I'm going to blast this hand out of the way, and I'm going to continue punching him. Once again, I showed that in a step of trap and hit, but it's actually simultaneous. So it's actually here, boom, it's simultaneous, right? Now, when I've trapped this hand here, I could come around to the other side, or I can take my right hand and I can come back here, and I have all the same moves we just did. So I can come right back to the elbow lock. If the hand moves, I can come to the wrist lock. If his arm bends, I have a shoulder lock, so now there's pressure on his shoulder here. So it doesn't change the move, I'm just going to the other side. Here, go to the other side, and I'm doing all the same techniques from here, from that other side. Keep it on. I was just telling Cody that this is probably my favorite series. I love doing this series. I teach this series in my Ninpo program, my Jiujitsu program. We've done this series in Judo, and we do it in Kung Fu. It's a series that I have in all my programs, and it's the way we're going to throw somebody off of a clinch. And so to start with here, we can get here many different ways, but for now, we're going to make it a little fancy, and I'm going to come here, I'm going to trap and hit. And when he gives me this block, instead of me blasting through that way, I'm going to come around to this side, and now he blocked. Now, when he blocks that one, I'm going to circle to the inside of his hand where I can hit him, or I can come through and make a clinch, okay, to get ready for a throw. Let's come to this side now. So there's a lot going on here, right? So it's a trap and a hit. So I trap, he blocks, boom. Now I'm going to come through, hit again. Now he's wide open for me, and so I can come through and I can make the clinch. Or he blocks and I disengage. We're here like this, right? So when I disengage, there's a lot of different ways I could hit him. I could come around and hit him with like a ridge hand, or I could come around and I could hit him with a back fist. But now we're in this position. So now that we're in this position, I'm going to circling hand. And now he's open for attack. So I have the center line controlled. I could come in and just hit him. I could do that, or I could do both. I could hit him and then I could make a clinch. If I come and make the clinch, my footwork, and I know you can't see my feet yet, but we'll move back in a second. My footwork goes step in, 1, and 2 as I come around. Okay, let's go back. 1, 2. Now from here, let's kind of face this way a little bit. From here, I have the moves we previously did. So I could come for an elbow lock. If I lose that, I could do a wrist lock. If his arm was bent, I have a shoulder lock. I could grab his head and I could throw him. So those are the same moves you already saw, okay? But instead of doing those moves on this level, we're going to make some throws. So to make the throw, the first throw that I have is one that you probably saw on like a first level. Like I teach this like right away in almost all my curriculums. And that's simply to pull and to launch like this. Is it okay if I throw you?
Yep.
So pull, throw. You notice how I always ask my partner, even though it's Cody and he knows he's going to get thrown anyways, I still say, is it okay if I throw? I don't want to mess up my partner's day. Not everybody wants to get thrown. And if you're working with someone who doesn't want to get thrown, just learning the off balancing and learning the techniques is great. But if he wants to get thrown, okay, ready? Boom. Okay. Now there's not a whole lot going on with that throw, right? I'm here and I'm just pulling and going like this. So this is off balancing. So we're learning off balancing techniques right now. But if I want to add some additional ways I can throw him, from here, from this off balancing, I can also lift his leg. And when I lift his leg, I'm rotating and turning, which is putting all the weight onto his foot right there, which is going to make him fall. Is it okay if I throw you with that one?
Yes.
This one's called Uchimata. It's a very famous Japanese Jiujitsu and Judo throw. Now if I'm throwing with Uchimata where he has one leg up, I can also attack that leg he's balancing on. So we're here. When I'm here like this, I could also step in and take him down this way. Okay, I'm going to throw you with that one, okay? So I can also step through there. I could also make a big step out to outside and catch him here, or I can just drop like this. The techniques in this position from that clinch are absolutely limitless. There's so many things you could do. I could keep this video going for like an hour and just showing techniques from there. Because you can do a body lock, you can drop to a single, you can go to a double leg takedown. There's a lot of different throws and takedowns we can do from there. So this clinch, having this underhook, is very powerful. Right? If you can learn to utilize this and understand how to make this work for you, it's so powerful. The very first jiu-jitsu lesson I ever had, and the first judo lesson I ever had, we did from that technique. And I know this generally doesn't even fall in this curriculum, but from here we did it, we did a lift. So we learned how to lift each other up. And you could practice that also. And you could learn that lift without even throwing anybody. So when we're doing all the moves, I can come here and I can just make a lift. In that position, my feet were in between his legs. I was up on the balls of my feet and I was lifting with my legs and not my back. There's so many things we can do right there. One thing is my students and your students, or you yourself, might get lost in all the steps to get there. Okay, so we're showing multiple steps. There's all kinds of ways to get there, but we're showing trap and punch, or we're showing trap and punch, disengage, circling hand to get to the inside line. And you might be thinking, dang, that's a lot, right? That's a lot to remember. So if you need to kind of tone that down a little bit, we can just automatically go to this outside line. So when we're fighting here, I can just come here. I don't have to do any of the fancy stuff. Boom. Do it to me once, Cody, right? Look, oh, see? Now he's got it, right? So you don't have to do every single step to get there. And there's multiple, even limitless other ways to get to that position. But just in our specific curriculum, so I know you guys know what you're doing, we're here, and to the trap, or I'm sorry, to the clinch, or we're here, disengage, and then to the clinch. But the reality is you could teach your class, or you could do this on your own, and you could just go back fist, and you could just go right for it. Okay, so those are some throws off of the clinch. Now we're going to see one of my all-time favorite submission holds from standing. As far as standing submission goes, this has been probably the highest percentage submission for me, or the highest percentage standing throw that I've used. And I've used it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've used it training with my students, and it's a very easy technique, and you see this technique in almost every martial arts style, and you see it because it's very effective, it's very easy to do, and this is the outside wrist lock. And so, let's start from this side, Cody. So from here, we were talking about this before we started filming, and we said, where should we start this from? And the reality is there's all kinds of places you can catch this from. Anytime you have a straight punch coming at you, you can catch this one. So in this one here, Cody's going to throw a straight punch. I'm going to do a cut punch over the top. So you should have seen the cut punch in a previous lesson. So the way this works is his punch is straight, and my punch is coming here like this. I originally learned this move like this. He punches, and I'm here like this. I feel like it's possible, but it's challenging because people retract their punch so much. So punch and retract. There you go. Punch real fast. There you go. See if they punch and retract. Now, it's possible because when he retracts, if I follow him, go ahead and retract. If I follow him, I'll still catch it. Watch again. So if you follow them, you'll still be there, but it is challenging to do that. The cut punch really stuns your opponent and slows them down to a position where you'll be able to catch this outside wrist lock. So he punches cut over the top. Now when he retracts, my hand is so far back, I'm going to catch it anyways. Does that make sense? So if I'm trying to do this, my hand's here and he's retracting is so far away. But if I'm here and he retracts, I'm here like this so I can get it. There's all kinds of other ways to catch this. Many, many ways. We'll show a couple more coming up. But in this position now, I just put my thumbs on his knuckles and I just rotate this way to make the outside wrist lock. Okay, Cody, you can do it to me once. So you'll cut punch with your left. So he cuts, I retract, he catches it, and then he has outside wrist lock. So we'll do that a couple times. Okay, good. Now I'm going to throw Cody all the way down to the ground with this one so you guys can see how it looks. So we're here. Go ahead and punch. And so you can see that it can be a complete takedown as well. Okay, so once we have that basic foundational technique down, give me a punch with your left maybe. Now from here, we can start to learn other applications to this and how we can make this more effective. So the one way I'm going to make this effective is instead of just going for the wrist lock, I'm going to come over the top of his arm and I'm going to create an elbow lock. So the elbow lock, I'm lifting his arm up like this and I'm crunching down here. I'm applying pressure on his elbow. Now we could catch this. When I was a lot younger in Jiu-Jitsu, I used to catch that move all the time on people where we'd be rolling here and I'd come here like this, I'd just be like this and I'd catch their arm and I'd just sit right down into the arm. It's very dangerous to sit on someone's arm like that. I was a lot skinnier back then and it was a lot easier for me to sit down with control. But that's a very dangerous position, but still can happen, okay? So I'm here and I can sit down on their arm. I could also just pull up on their arm. But whether I'm sitting on their arm or pulling up on the arm, a reaction that I'm gonna get from my opponent almost all the time is to bend. So when he bends his arm, I come back around and apply the same wrist lock that you just saw. All right, so again, go ahead and punch at me. I cut here like this. He bends his arm and I come back for the wrist lock. You want to try it on me? Sure. Good. Now, besides just catching their elbow, we can also add what I call like a momentum throw to this one. And this is the one where we're going to add a lot of power. And so if I have his hand here and I'm applying pressure like this, I can also step behind him. So I take one step behind him, and as I step, I pull his arm, and his elbow is against my body here. So when I pull his arm and his elbow's against my body, it makes him move in that direction. If he doesn't move, he's going to get his arm smashed, right? So he has to move, and when he moves, I then have momentum to catch the wrist lock. Let's see that again. So I'm here like this. I apply. So wherever his pinky finger is, that's where his elbow is, okay? So in this situation, his pinky is in line here, facing towards the ceiling, so his elbow's facing to the ceiling. And there's where the pressure is. If I turn his arm, and now his pinky is over here, his elbow is here. So now I apply pressure this direction, it makes him move, and then I have momentum to catch the wrist lock. Now besides the momentum of the wrist lock, we could also add the same choke that we saw previously. So if I'm here, and I'm pulling him this way, I could also come here for a hit or a choke. So again, let's do this side. If I'm here and he's coming, wham! And there you see him running right into a choke or riding right into a hit. So if I was here, I can hit him or I can choke him. So that's how we can add some momentum to that wrist lock. Here you go. Now, it's funny because I have a lot of martial arts that we do here, and this honestly doesn't fall in any of them. It doesn't fall in my Kung Fu program, it's not in our Ninpo program. I actually learned this from a Filipino weapons instructor, and the thing about this is it flows so well with Wing Chun Kung Fu, and it flows so well with trapping to grappling that I've added it to my programs. And also, if you consider Jeet Kune Do, this is a very well-known technique that you see in Jeet Kune Do. And in Jeet Kune Do, if you consider Bruce Lee being a Wing Chun student or a Wing Chun master, if you will, and then also adding this to his curriculum after he saw it from a Filipino instructor as well, because it just flows really nicely. And so originally, I believe this was a drill that was done with sticks or knives, or maybe both, but we're gonna do an empty hand. And it looks like this, and this is a confusing one to learn from video, but we're gonna try our best here. So it starts where I throw a strike, and I can use an open hand, which I like to do this. I usually do open hand, but you can also use like a fist if you want to, just to kind of show that it could be a strike. And that's our first technique, is to block. Then Cody's gonna parry and trap my arm. Okay, let's do it again, ready? So, and I'm hitting him right about there. Oh, yeah, he instantly blocked. Hitting him right about there. We're going to that part right there. So I'm hitting him here, and he block, parry, trap. Okay, let's do it again. So it's a block, parry, trap. Again, block, parry, trap. Then he's gonna do the exact same technique to me. So he's gonna come over here and I'm gonna block, parry, trap. So when I trap, I'm trapping right above the elbow at the tricep, and oftentimes I'll use a little bit of body weight on there, so I'm not using my arm strength the whole time, okay? When he blocks, because I originally learned this in a knife fighting exercise, he doesn't block like this, because if I had a knife, I could come back and hit and get the arteries and stuff there, so he'd block here. That's only application for that I know of, though, is because of knife fighting. Okay, so now he's gonna parry, trap. Well, just to this side for now. Block, parry, trap. Block, parry, trap, right? So this is our block, parry, trap. We oftentimes call it the block, parry, trap drill, although sometimes we use the Filipino name, which I think is hubad bubad, pretty sure. So now, so this is flowing through this first technique. Now the next one we do, and we're gonna have 3 angles of attack here. The next angle is gonna be a straight strike. So now I'm hitting straight at him. He's gonna really do the same thing. He's gonna block, parry, trap. And now I block, parry, trap. Block, parry, trap. Now as we're doing this, go ahead. I just want to talk about this a little bit. Is that this is a sensitivity drill. It's a drill designed to help you understand blocking and trapping from a close range. It doesn't mean a fight is going to look like this, right? So I don't want anyone to be confused and think that you think that I think a fight looks like this, because it doesn't look like this, right? We know this, right? But the reality is the fight might look like, and that could be the end of it, right? So the reality is, could be like a block, parry, boom, and that's it, right? So that's more realistic. And also being able to train these techniques and other techniques similar to this, you're gonna get really good at in-close fighting. And this is a martial art of very in-close fighting. So here we go. So our second one is a straight punch. Our first one is this punch coming at this angle here. Oftentimes people call that a number 1 angle. Again, your strikes can be with an open hand or a fist. It doesn't matter to me. Our next one is an inside strike. So in this inside strike, I come here and I go here like this. So again, I'm changing my angle to go straight at him. And now he's gonna do the same thing. Block, parry, trap, block, parry, trap. He blocks, parry, trap. And he's gonna strike me, I block. Then I parry it, I trap. So our 3 angles of attack are here, coming to the outside. Our next one is going straight. And our third one will be coming, it's kind of more like this angle coming over here this time, right? Like a knife hand or a ridge hand, you could say. So that's our 3 angles of attack. Then once you have those down, you're just going to kind of flow with those 3 angles. Now, one punch at me, it's moving in to trap, and what I like to think about a wing hand is it's a very close range technique. And I see students oftentimes try from far away, and it doesn't always go that well for them. But as I see them do it very close in a more like real like sensitivity type drill, where we're here like this and that punch starts to come and then they're able to catch it, seems to be easier for them. I do have a professional fighter that trains here though, that I have seen do it on the outside a little bit more with some of the punches, and I've seen him go and come back, and he trains professional mixed martial arts fighting, and so I see him pull that off on some of the students every once in a while, because I know that he really likes Kung Fu. But anyways, this is the wing hand technique, okay? And I believe in Chinese they call it Bong Sao, and what happens here is when that punch comes, I deflect it with my lead hand. It's a deflection, it's not really a block. So when people do this is not the right way to do it. It's not really coming way over here like this, but it's more like if I go straight in, it takes if you watch here, like here he punches me, but when I do this, it takes it out of range, right? So it deflects it. So I'm here moving in. This hand is also here as a backup, and then from there, I pull and punch. And then from the pull and punch, we have all kinds of crazy techniques we can do, right? So we're here, pull and punch. Now, we can do this as a continuous motion to train it, where he strikes at me, and then when I do the wing hand, he blocks with the wing hand, or when I do pull and punch, he does the wing hand. So now he pulls here and strikes, and now I have the wing hand. And we can just continue this. Okay, so this is a very common drill. Once again, I want to encourage you to understand that a fight doesn't look like this, right? It's just a sensitivity training exercise. And the reason why we're doing it is because it flows so well with so many of the other exercises that we do. Now I can switch sides, so here when he blocks that, I can grab his hand and I can switch. Now we're on this side. So now we have the other hand now, the other arm. We can just keep switching it. You can switch every time if you want. Now there's another switch I like to do also. And this other switch, what happens is when I get that block, well here, let's just do it, I'll show you guys. So when I get this block, sometimes when we're here and he's defended, I'll take this hand and I'll shoot it up here, I'll redirect that arm, and I'll back fist. Then I pull, and then we're back to here. So that's another way to switch to the other line. Now this technique here, as he's striking me and I'm blocking, this could even be a strike to the eyes. I'm coming back for a hit. And again, this isn't meant to be a drill, but you can see the applications and how it could be effective in real life. Okay, now that we have the wing hand, we're going to add this technique to the other trapping drill that you already saw. And so now we're doing a lot with this trapping drill. So now from here, we're just flowing right now. None of this is really too prearranged. We're just kind of moving. And then at any time, we could add the continuous wing hand. Okay, woo, man, my arms are getting sore from that. Good job, Cody. All right, so those are some drills, some sensitivity drills that we can do to improve our trapping. The next series, we're gonna flow from the trapping techniques into the grappling techniques. Now, I've shown all this on previous videos, so we're not learning anything new right now, we're just putting it all together. So I'm probably not going to do too much at a walkthrough pace. We're probably just going to do it, and I'll show you guys how it works. But what I want to say is if you can put your exercises in flow drills, you can put your submissions and your trapping in flow drills like this. And you can even create your own flow drills, right? A lot of this stuff we just came up with in the dojo, just playing around with techniques. You start to put these together and really make the martial art yours, it will become effective. But if you take your martial art and you make it very rigid and stagnant, it won't be as effective. And I just want to say again, when I originally learned these moves, I learned like someone throws a punch at me and I grab and then I wrist lock them. that's not going to work, you know. Or I learned if they grab my gi, you know, I come here and then I wrist lock them. I'm not saying it's never going to work, but the possibility, the percentage of you catching a move like that goes way down if you don't practice it in a live flowing exercise. And this is an exercise where we are helping each other learn. So it's a cooperative exercise, right? But then the next step would be to do it without helping each other. The next step would be an actual sparring or grappling where you're trying to defeat each other and you're trying to defend the moves. And if you can take it through all those progressions, this will become very practical. But if you don't, what I found, I'm just going to say what I found personally, is if you don't take it through those progressions, those step-by-step progressions like that, it will not be practical for you. And that's at least that's what I found. So let's do it. Ready? So we're